very much for coming at lunchtime today for a little bit of horror on this wonderful Halloween day. And it is just everything that I've conjured up, I must say. And we're here to listen to some spooky stories. I mean, Halloween wouldn't be Halloween without its fair share of spooky stories. Now, it's going to be a little bit of a potpourri because some of you have heard my stories. So I'm trying to, I have a lot of stories, but
heard them all.
I know you have. Because for me, I guess I was raised in an era, or maybe not an era, but a time where children were not affected by horrific movies on TV or at the theater, or prone to any creepiness or whatever you want to think of. But in my place, where I grew up, my home, 27 Charles in Elmer, which is now called 27 Sims, it became apparent throughout the years as I was growing up and maturing that there was something in that house. And it's only later on, because you're sort of afraid to talk about it, you don't want people to tease you or, you know, your mother to give you heck, which did happen. And even my sisters, we all kept quiet up until we got to be like in our 20s, and we started to speak out about things that happened to us, and different things that happened to us. Because the things that happened to us were not the same per se. My brother, nothing. He never saw anything. My mother, later on, as she was a widow and we all left, and she realized that a lot of the things that we said to her, that she wouldn't listen to us, were apparent. So I'm going to give you a little bit, a few little stories about what happened to me and my sisters and my mom. So, first time that anything ever happened to me, I was about 5 years old. And my mother always dressed me in a dress. Although I became quite the tomboy later on, I was always in a dress. And I'm the eldest in my family. So my sister Louise was just an infant, and she was in her little bed, and I was playing in the hallway. And it was winter time because it was dark at supper time. We were waiting for Dad to arrive. And Mom was making supper, and the only room that was lit was the kitchen. And I was playing in a make-believe because I always had an invisible friend. And I had an invisible friend for a long time. And so I'm talking away to my invisible friend, and I'm on my hands and knees, and I'm playing with my dolls. I can recall this, even though I'm 5, because it stayed with me. It branded me. When all of a sudden I felt this. I'm on all fours on the ground, and something is tugging at my skirt, at my dress, and pulling me towards the stairwell. Now, I don't know what's happening to me. I'm 5. And I can feel this tug, and it doesn't feel right. I can still feel the tug to this day. It just didn't feel right. And I couldn't scream out. And I knew, and just my child instincts, that I had to get into the kitchen. I had to get in where my mom was. That was the safe place. So I'm grasping at the floor, and I'm trying to crawl. I'm crawling, and I'm crawling. And this thing is pulling me back to the stairwell. And finally, I made it. I put my hand inside of the kitchen limit where the light was, and it let me go. And of course, when you're being pulled on something lets go of you, what happens? You go tumbling. And I tumbled into like on the side of the stove, and my mother started giving me heck, like, "What are you doing? Oh my God, I'm making dinner. You could have hurt yourself." I could still hear her to this day. that was my very first encounter with the spirit world or whatever, because it came clearer as I got older. You know, it's so funny because people always say there's something under the bed. There's something under the bed. Now, there were 4 kids growing up, 6 in the family, small house, still there to this day. You can go right by it if you want. And my sister was in the twin bed next to me, and we're yakking away. Okay? When all of a sudden, boom, you know, her bed, not mine. Just a little thump, boom, like that. So we were laughing. I thought she was just, you know, jumping in, like, even though we were lying down, we were like this, talking to each other, you know. You can hear my mother giving us that, go to sleep, boom, you know. So I'm saying to her, are you doing that? And she said, no, I'm not. You know, I'm not doing that. And she didn't want to say anything because, I don't know, I would have been about 10, she was 5. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. And I said, well, something's happening to your bed. It's moving. So, you know, you don't know. You're in the house. And you say, look, I'm going to look under the bed. So you look under the bed, and there's nothing under the bed, of course, just, you know, some dust and other little children's toys and whatnot. So we go back to bed. And this time we're going, okay, we're going to go to sleep, and that's going to be it. So we're all under our blankets and everything. And later on, I'm awakened because the room's not that big, and we're sleeping almost next to each other, like almost together, although it's twin beds. And she's sleeping like a little baby, you know, a little face. I can still see Louise there. And her bed is going like this. Now that only happened that time. I never ever saw that again. But my sister Sue slept in that room too. Eventually, when I would grow up and I had to go in another room, and it all went by age. So my sister Sue was about 6 years old. She's the youngest of the girls. We were a little bit older than her, so we were allowed to watch TV. My sister Louise could watch TV till about 8, and I could watch TV till 9. So she told us this later on in life, but she didn't like it. She was the only one that had to go into her bed for 7-ish while we could stay up. So was a bit of a rebel. And so she would sneak down the stairwell just enough that she could see the TV between the cracks of the railing. And if my mother ever came too close for comfort, because she could hear her, you can hear us in our home, we all have loud voices, she could scooch up without getting caught. Good old Sue. So she said, one day, you were down there watching TV, and I was like this, and railing, and the stairs go like that. And then she said, I felt ice cold behind me, like ice cold. Didn't know what it was back then, you're only 6. Ice cold. So she said, here I was, watching, and she said, I was compelled to turn my head and look up. I was compelled. So, a little 6-year-old girl with her long hair and her bangs, turn over, and right in the door frame of my bedroom at the time with Louise was a woman's figure. Like just a woman's, I guess it would be something along, you know, wispy, could see through and all that. Just a woman, she didn't do anything. And then she just evaporated and was gone.